Okay, so there it is, there's the sheet. The next thing is we want you to adapt your nutrient intake to match, and your caloric intake to match your activity level. Does that make sense? In this country, how are we doing as far as calories in and calories out? Doing pretty good?
No.
Not so much. Okay, so what we're doing is we want to adjust the food intake. And you know what the interesting thing is when you start eating these foods and you start cutting up the foods on the right and putting them in small amounts like that, you can't eat enough to, unless you force yourself to be uncomfortable and to gain weight. You just can't, you cannot physically put enough in there, okay, when you're eating these foods over here, on the left and on the right, and then sprinkling in with some of these foods. You cannot overeat unless you try to, like it's a contest, like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Which is a contest to guys, right? Ben, right? When we see all-you-can-eat, we're like, good, I wonder how many plates I can do, right? And they keep clearing them away. And the studies have shown if they leave the plates there, you actually eat less. When the waitresses come by and keep clearing those plates, you eat 3 to 4 times more than if you left the plate sitting on the table and you're like, oh wow, it's my 5th plate. You wouldn't do it. Robbie.
Sodexo changed it over at the, Sodexo changed the Union Du Bois or whatever to all you care to eat rather than all you
Oh, did
can
they?
eat.
When we had our restaurants, I called it all you should eat.
Yeah.
And then I put in parentheses, let your conscience be your guide.
Right.
But really, and it's a thing. The thing is you really this is such bulky food, nutrient dense, and you have to chew. And the more chewing you have to do, the more satisfied you are as well. The more liquid calories you eat, the more processed food you eat, less chewing, less satisfied, more cravings. So the more that's why popcorn is so satisfying. Popcorn, you know, air popcorn, because you got to chew it and chew it and chew it. Okay, so we do not set a calorie level. We didn't even do it for this. We didn't even talk calories in the study, did we? We didn't say, oh, you need to be on this many calories of that. Eat till you're satisfied. Okay, so your calorie needs are based upon your body mass index and your body composition. Okay, so do you guys know your numbers, where you're at body mass index wise, how much earth you're taking up? That's what it's saying. Okay? Do you ever notice the Asian countries that are more populated, they actually are thinner people because they don't have as much space to spread out. We have Nevada and Wyoming we can spread out into. Right? So what we look at is what's your body mass index? Are you below a 25 on your body mass index? Because that's going to determine your longevity and your healthcare costs. Across the boards. Body mass index. And people say, well, I'm big boned. Okay? Mom always said that, oh, she's just big boned. He's just big boned. Remember that? But secondly, we want to know is how much body fat do you have on your body? Can you pinch those inches? Okay? And do you have that solid belly, okay, where you have fat that's wrapped around your organs? That's the most dangerous. If you store your fat above the waist, okay, that's very detrimental. Your heart attack and stroke waiting to happen, diabetes, the whole bit. This stuff is not that difficult to figure out. Wendy can stand there and predict people when she comes into the office. She can tell within a year or two where they're going to be at as far as diseases. We know that. Okay? So you adjust the calorie levels to where you're at and what your goals are. Okay? What are your activity levels? If we had a lady who was in the research group. She was over 6 feet tall, and she was a power lifter. Okay? She's not going to be eating the same amount of food as the 5'4" office worker who maybe walks, the dog a couple times a week. So you adjust this calorie. We don't tell you what calories to eat. Eat to your heart's content. As long as you're eating the micronutrient dense foods in the center on the left, and you're eating till you're satisfied, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Are you limited to 3 meals though?
And I'll tell you why. You won't even want more than 3 meals. Okay? We need to talk with you and share some things with you that you can be doing. Maybe you need a few more nuts. Maybe you need a few more seeds.
Yeah,
maybe some more legumes.
Almonds.
Yeah, okay. So your lifestyle and your desired outcomes. Do you want to compete in some kind of athletic competition? Okay, we had a person in this study whose spouse went on this program and is now doing personal records with 100-mile races. Okay, so this is adaptable for your lifestyle. And the last one is adjusted to your specific needs. So we're not going to talk calorie levels and things like that. We're going to talk principles. Number 3, okay, we'll go back. Okay, have you heard a lot about this, how in America more and more people are overweight? Now look at this. We went back to 1962, year before I was born. Okay? And that's why I take this stuff personal. Look what happened around the time I graduated from college. what happened in America. They have one more dietitian in the scene, and I'm supposed to help this, right? It's like this out-of-control fire, get more firemen, right? We have more dietitians in this world right now than we ever have, right? And what's happening? Look at this though. About 32% of Americans have been overweight for the last 50 years. That number's been flat. Okay? Oh, that's overweight. That's with a BMI 25 to 29.9, roughly. So that's probably like 15, 20 pounds overweight, 10 to 15, 20, somewhere in there. But the number that are obese and then extreme obesity is off the charts. What started happening, besides more dietitians, in the 80s till now? What did we do there? What did we do?
Well, I believe, and I've done other studies for mental health with this, that this is when processed food like steel mills and all of these processed cracker companies and bread companies came out with this processed food with the sugar, sprinkling
Okay.
sugar and everything. So processed foods really took off in the late 1970s and mostly into the 80s and 90s.
And we came out with these little boxes that we think are so wonderful. That we plug in, well that too, those are wonderful too, aren't they? I'm talking microwaves, quick processed foods, okay? What else did we start doing in the 80s?
Corn syrup,
Corn syrup,
high fructose.
high fructose corn syrup, processed foods. Really start hitting it here,
Yeah.
and we start going up. So really, the overweight has been flat for 50 years. It's this whole obesity and extreme obesity. And watch this. Isn't this an interesting slide? Healthcare costs. National healthcare expenditures, about 1980, so they're going up. Where are we at now? We're spending more per capita right now for healthcare costs in America than any other nation. And that'd be great if we had wonderful health at the end. We need more physicians, more nurse practitioners, more firemen to come to the scene of the crime, right? More ambulances, quicker healthcare. We need to take control as a people and support one another like we're doing here. To take this thing. This is insane. This is not, where are our grandkids, and some of your kids, where are they going to be on the BMI charts and where are they going to be for expenditure? We cannot sustain this as a country. There's just no way. Okay, pillar number 3. And this is really the one that I like to study, is what's going on inside your bloodstream. What sets the stage for disease is called inflammation. This is the precursor to all of these lifestyle diseases that our neighbors, our friends, our family, my family, all basically have developed through the years. And it's an inflammation. So we're talking about eating a diet that directly affects the inflammatory process inside your bloodstream. Okay? And specifically, we're looking at insulin. What's insulin? Insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas that helps usher glucose from carbohydrates out of your bloodstream and into your cell. When you start eating more foods on the right-hand side column over here, you start producing more insulin. And every day, if you're eating a lot of processed foods, more processed foods, more processed foods, you're creating more and more, you're secreting more and more insulin into your bloodstream, and high levels of insulin cause irritation to your cellular linings of all your cells, causing inflammatory response. And as we'll find out, and as Wendy would tell us, you can actually see that the pancreas can actually tire itself out and stop producing enough insulin for the body to become insulin resistant, and you don't produce enough insulin. Okay, and that person is called what we call a metabolic syndrome or a pre-diabetic state, and we can predict within 3 to 4 years after that develops that the person is going to develop type 2 diabetes, predictably. And we say, well, my mom had it, my grandpa had it, and so forth. We eat and we live just like our grandma and our grandpa and so forth. And so we find that when people start adopting these types of principles, again, it's a one-size-fits-all. When you start eating from the middle and the left-hand side column here, basically those things basically drop off. Your risk for running out of insulin, type 2 diabetes, just basically disappears. And we can reverse that in as little as 18 days in the study that I was part of, the research study. Secondly, what are we looking at? In other inflammatory factors, what about human growth hormone and melatonin? On the back of your sheet here, there's a handout. Okay? We need to start understanding that our bodies have a biological clock, not just the women. Okay? Women, we always think they have a biological clock, clicking, 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 clicking. Men, we have it too. Okay? Just say you're at 6 a.m. Let's start over on the right-hand side there. What happens inside the body? These are called circadian rhythms. You guys have heard this before, right? Circadian rhythms. The body basically runs on a 24-hour cycle. You put people in caves, and they adjust to about a 24, 23-and-a-half-hour cycle. And we find that the body basically starts waking you up, even before the alarm clock goes off sometimes. Did you not get one of these?
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else need one? Okay, so what we see is that basically when you get up at 6 o'clock, your blood pressure starts to rise. Okay? It's telling you to get out of bed. It's a secretion of melatonin. Melatonin is that hormone that's secreted in the brain around when it starts to get dark out. Start telling you to go to bed. But we're so intelligent as human beings, when we start being told to go to bed, what do?
Turn on the lights.
Turn on the coffee machine, okay? Turn the lights up, okay? Get the music going. Wake us up, stimulate us. The body's saying go to bed, okay? Now the interesting thing is you go through the day there and you get to about between 11 and 2 a.m. That's where we have peak human growth hormone secretion, and you have to be sleeping. They have that spike release. That's what regenerates the whole system in the body. How many of you have actually got 8 hours of sleep and felt like crap? Okay? You've done that. Okay? When you get to sleep is as important or more important than how much you get. We want 7 to 9, ideally. That's the studies show that you have problems below 7 and over 9, even oversleeping. The same types of issues with not enough sleep. But if we're not in that zone, if we're not sleeping and getting that peak human growth hormone secretion, the body can't regenerate itself. And so what we're talking about also is that in order for peak human growth hormone secretion to occur, our blood sugar levels cannot be high. They cannot be spiked. So when you have that nice cake and ice cream or whatever it is right before you go to bed and you spike the insulin levels, it actually stunts the human growth hormone secretion when you go to bed. So you're better off going to bed on an empty stomach. Isn't that a horrible saying? I mean, you feel like, wow, maybe I sent to a developing country or something, right? Go to bed on an empty stomach and you actually have more human growth hormone secretion while you're sleeping. So we want to eat a diet and a pattern that are hormone friendly, inflammatory friendly. Okay? C-reactive protein is a response to processed foods. High animal protein diet spikes C-reactive protein. Just had a paper published on this. The more animal protein we eat, the more circulating inflammatory hormones we have in our bloodstream that sets the stage for heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, and those types of things. Okay? And then IGF-1, which is also the precursor that actually sets the cell up to become a cancerous cell. So we're talking about when you eat in the left-hand column here, again, these are inflammatory friendly foods. The ones in the right-hand category over here, these are inflammatory foods in the body. When they're digested and they're in this system, they cause the body an immune response to these foods. They're almost, in a sense, the body sees these as invaders into the body. So if we're going to use them, we want to use them in small quantities. We don't want to be overloading the system with large quantities. These foods over here actually protect against the foods in the right-hand column. So in a sense, we have to have these overbear the ones in the right-hand column. Okay, so inflammatory friendly. Questions on that? That to me right there, that's the longevity pillar right there. That's going to be determining, basically, when we do those levels of insulin and C-reactive protein, insulin-like growth factors, when we measure those are the ones that really determine what state of disease we're going to be in. Okay, so there you go. You get that? Go ahead.
I do have a question. There's been a connection with gluten and inflammatory. Would it be best to try and avoid gluten, even though on this diet?
The gluten situation is that gluten is a very highly processed food.
Okay.
It's the protein element of the wheat,
Okay.
of the grain. Okay, so when we take it and we process it and take it out of there, when the same food, if it was left in its whole state and sprouted, has a totally different response to the body.
Okay.
The gluten develops as you process that food and put it in the food product. And we're getting it in such a concentrated form.
Okay.
That's what's happening. And for the last 20 years, we've been on a high-carb diet, staying away, doing all this stuff. So we switched away from, got rid of fat stuff, fat-free, and we went on bagels and breads and all that stuff, which is very, very high gluten foods. And we've overloaded on it, is what's going on. Yeah, they are inflammatory, it can be very inflammatory, especially for arthritic people,
Right, okay.
and digestion.
So as long as you're kind of doing the more whole,
Yeah, again, you want it in its whole state as possible, sprouted foods. Now, you can buy like the Ezekiel breads and the Silver Hills bread, you can find it in town here, bread and bagels. They actually don't even make it into flour, it's sprouted grains into the bread and into the bagels. Yeah, it's gonna have a different response in the body.
And you're talking about the human growth hormone peak, whatever, I thought I heard you allude to what's unstable very late. So is there an ideal time to not be past?
You ideally should be in bed, would be ideal, would be in bed into your sleep cycle, deep sleep cycles, an hour before you actually get into that 11:30, 12 o'clock human growth hormone secretion. That would be ideal, perfect.
You're saying bed at 10 or 10:30?
Yeah, exactly. And then that's something, I mean, all of this stuff is basically things you have to experiment with your lifestyle. If you work nights, okay, then come home and make your bedroom like a cave. Even where you're sleeping now, you shouldn't have lights that even penetrate the retina even when it's closed, because that can interrupt melatonin production. Okay, we should actually start, there's actually a setting that you can put on your computer where it'll actually dim down with the sun. This is based on the sun. When the sun comes up, get up. When it's going down, go to bed. I mean, the birds have us beat on this one. The bird brains, right? So that's would be ideal. Play with this, move this, and really make your living or your sleeping quarters almost like a cave, regardless of the time you're sleeping. And it's ideal, would be ideal to get on a 7-day rhythm. Okay, our body also runs on a 7-day rhythm, not only on a 24-hour rhythm, but a 7-day rhythm. Every 7 days, organ transplant people start rejecting their organs for the first few months. Every 7 days, there's a 7-day rhythm in your body. What do you think? You know, the French experimented with a 10-day calendar. Do you remember that? Back during the French Revolution, they went to a 10-day work week or a 10-day calendar week. How'd that work out? Insane.